Welcome back. My name's James Johnson, and that's my mother, LaDonna, my lovely mother, LaDonna.
Hey.
We're gonna be talking today about a theory I've got that I think my mother's on board to a certain extent with, and we're working together on. But I'm gonna go from my perspective on this one. So this is about Sansa. In my opinion, let's start with something my mom disagrees with. In my opinion, Sansa is going to be the queen at the end of this, and I mean of Westeros. And I think that Jon is going to be the elected male, and they're going to end up together. The exact same thing I thought was going to happen to Val, but it'll be Sansa. But the thing that's missing was in the last one I had Val ruling because she had some lineage queendom over the others, which apparently is not true, at least in the TV show, but probably in the books. So I was wrong on that one. But it was because she had some lineage control over Westeros, or specifically, it's not the Westeros, the others, and that with the death of the Night's King, they'll worship her, and she gets queendom from that. So scratch all that. Instead, Sansa is going to be queen, and Sansa's, and I feel very confident about this, though my mom disagrees with it. Sansa's going to marry Jon, who's actually her cousin. And the reason Jon is going to be, though he's the lineage from the Targaryens, the conquering lineage, he will be, because technically they ruled themselves before the Targaryens ever got there, but in Seven Kingdoms, Jon will be elected king. Well, Sansa will be the heir to practically all of Westeros. And here's how that works. Littlefinger, I predicted, I was right, and I'm sure I'm more wrong than I am right, but I was right. I predicted way before it happened that Littlefinger would sell Sansa to the Boltons in exchange for more power. But Littlefinger wants to be king. He wants to rule it all. I want everything. I would give up everything to get what I want. What do you want? Everything. He says in the most recent season that he wants the vision of him being on the throne and Sansa by his side. He doesn't have a right to the throne, and I've suggested in previous videos that if he can get all of the kingdoms to answer to him in one way or another, and then have Cersei sign over a Protector of the Realm to him, which was based on Tommen, which is not true anymore. Just Tommen's died. That he would have all the kingdoms supporting him, and he'd have a piece of paper that says that he rules. That's not how he's doing it. Sansa needs somebody. It's what he says to whoever is with him and Jon Arryn, who's the older fellow. It's not Hostertelly. Can't remember the guy's name at the Reach. You can do a whole lot with a name, with the right name. Sansa was married to Tyrion. Sansa is married to Tyrion. Sansa was married to Ramsay Bolton. Sansa is the descendant of the Starks. She is the eldest surviving Stark. She is a Tully. So here's what Littlefinger has done. The only Tully left is Edmure. If Edmure dies and his son, Sansa rules, and his wife. Sansa rules. Sansa is the eldest in Stark heir. There are no more males as far as they know. They think Jon is a bastard, but Jon is Ned's kid, but Jon's a bastard. Rickon's dead. They think Bran's dead. But she's older than Bran if you're willing to, and I think that they will, for the sake of power, agree that marriage rights, if your spouse dies, you get their property. And that's because Littlefinger will benefit from it. He'll want it because he benefits from it. So Sansa and that women should rule equally. So Sansa technically has Winterfell. It's hers, if we view it that way. If Edmure dies, Sansa has the Riverlands. If Tyrion dies, then arguably Sansa has Casterly Rock. Again, marriage. It goes to whoever the spouse is. And Jaime can't hold lands. So technically, in a way, and let me add to that, if Littlefinger gets Sansa to marry Robin, Aaron, Sweet Robin. Then Sweet Robin dies. Then Sansa has the Eyrie under her power. Littlefinger is trying to put Sansa in that position so he can marry Sansa and get power through her. He is simultaneously teaching her to stand up for herself, sort of, which is going to be his downfall. So at the end of this, Sansa is going to have a claim to Riverland, the Riverlands, a claim to the Eyrie, a claim, or the Vale, excuse me, a claim to Casterly Rock. And Casterly Rock's the name of the castle. What's their area? Lannisport's the city. Casterly Rock's the castle.
The Reach?
No, the Reach is the Baratheon. I can't remember what it's called. But Sansa ends up basically having a right to all these through lineage. And with Littlefinger's death, she's actually got it under her power. What do you have to say about all that, Mama?
Let me clarify one thing. The Reach is not... The Reach is the Tyrells. The Stormlands is Baratheon. Okay, well, first of all, I agree with everything you've said about Littlefinger's desires and the fact that Sansa is... Littlefinger's big mistake was showing Sansa the machine underneath Littlefinger. After he showed her that, she was able to think like him. So that's his fatal flaw, really. It's that he let her see that. You also forgot to add Harrenhal.
Harrenhal's not one of the Seven Kingdoms. It's a castle, and it's extremely important, I agree, at the end, because they'll think that they're safe from the others because it can't be assaulted from the ground. But it's not its own kingdom. It is where everybody will be culminating at the end because they'll feel safest there.
I have to tell you that Harrenhal draws a lot of taxes from the surrounding people. I don't know if you know that or remember it. It's been a while since we addressed it. I absolutely do not agree at all that Jon is going to end up married to Sansa.
Okay.
Just absolutely don't agree. I respect your opinion. I will say this. I'm not going to say it. We're very much aware of that there is a leaked script.
I don't want to talk about spoilers. I don't want to do it.
I'm going to act like that's not out there, okay?
I have not read these.
What I'm about to say is not at all based on what that spoiler is, if it is indeed a spoiler. I don't think they're going to end up together, but I do think that Jon is going to be an elected official and he will rule from King's Landing or whatever the hell it will be called then. I don't think it will be a real kingship. It will be something different, some evolution into a democracy. I do think that Sansa will be a queen of winter over Winterfell. But I don't see them together. I think it will be fascinating that we've got a dragon and wolf down at King's Landing, and we've got a first man wolf still up at Winterfell. The thing is, if there's a need to keep Winterfell open, then it starts to, and I'm not going to go into it, but it starts to lead me into the question of whether or not the Night's King survives it. I mean, is there a reason for Winterfell to be up there other than helping to protect the wall? Maybe that's not the point of Winterfell. Maybe Winterfell is just a warden of the North. They take care of the northern region for Jon. But I disagree with you on their marriage. So I'll leave it at that.
All right. First of all, you're right. It's the Westerlands is Casterly Rock and Lannisport and all that. The Reach is the Tyrells, and the Stormlands are the Baratheons. I can't believe that I'd forgotten that. That's absurd. All right, so Jon and Sansa. We've had twins set up from the beginning, and certainly Jon and Dany are going to be played with, and their potential romance, and I think they're twins as well, but even absent their twindom, they're related. She's at least his aunt. And so we're going to accept that. I think that it's all, and Tywin married his second cousin. I think it was second cousin.
think it was first cousin, but a cadet line, they said.
We will be convinced that it would be okay for Jon and Dany to marry, and knowing that they're twins, and I mean it that they're twins. I'm just going to ignore a counter to that, because assuming they're twins, we're going to be presented with that possibility, and we're going to be okay with it. It's not going to end up happening, but we're going to be okay with it. And why is that okay and Cousins isn't? They understand each other to a certain extent, and hear me out. The first time we see them back together, they hug. You expect that, brother and sister. But they not only hug, they hold each other's hands in that episode, and the next one. So not just once, they hold each other's hands twice. Sansa is a voice of reason to him. Sansa sits there and tells him, you're wrong, that we have to go after our brother. We have to kill Ramsay. She's in the battlefield, she's in the strategy area. He kisses her on her forehead in the end of the Battle of the Bastards, I think. It's either that or the next episode. These don't prove it, but they are set up for it. And if she ends up having lineages from all these different places, and he's elected the leader, them together is the perfect combination. Add to it of the possibility that she is pregnant by the Hound, and he chooses to adopt this kid. I think she will have the Hound's kid. Does that help at all? Does that change your opinion at all?
Not a bit.
Okay. You just think that that's familial affection?
I do. And I have a brother, and I hold his hand, and it's nothing at all romantic about it.
Have you ever seen any of the Starks hold hands or kiss each other's foreheads?
We've seen Kat give Ned a good wet kiss before she leaves him. And I think she kissed Bran on his forehead before she left. Kissing on a forehead is what you do. It's either a cheek or a forehead. That's what you do when it's family. So I'm not saying the show isn't playing with it, James, but it's not going to happen, in my opinion. I think that Jon and Dany will have some flirtation. They weren't raised together, and a lot of this taboo stuff about incest. Well, we know why it's there for a lot of reasons, but if children are raised in different households and they don't have any of the usual sibling rivalries and all the stuff that goes with being raised up with a sibling, there could be something romantic between them. I want to ask you this: why do we accept that and we don't accept Cersei and Jaime's relationship?
We don't accept. I thought it was a question.
It is, but if I can just add this, yes. I mean, we know that the Targaryens interbred for a long time. We really didn't get a whole lot of disgust out of it, except when the person marrying, like one of the kings married a sister and she didn't like him. She's the one that Bloodraven wanted, remember? And she was not happy in that marriage. In other words, we kind of accept it if they accept it. Do you know what I mean? Why don't we accept? Yeah, it's consensual. Why don't we accept it with Cersei and Jaime? I think one of the reasons I have a hard time with it is absolutely disgusting to me, but is that Jaime had to have been such a dumbass when she was manipulating him into this.
It's the manipulation that we have a problem with.
It is, and she did that to Jaime. I mean,
but the reason we have incest in the first episode is to make us okay with it later. The Targaryens married each other. This is all playing into the same themes. I mean, you certainly can't deny that the themes are there. Well, if we're presented with a twin situation that we're not okay with, but we grow to view it as just a part of the system, we don't view that as being as immoral as we did in the initial episode. It was association with it, but we would think it was weird and immoral, but not in a... It's the other stuff they did that associates that sense of them. The fact that they kill a kid, and from there, we now think that Cersei's a bad person. We think that Jaime's trying to be a good person. Most people, I think, that watch this channel do, but not everybody, and that's fair. But we no longer view that as being such a big problem. And then think that later we actually get it presented that Jon and Dany may end up together, and I think that that's inevitable. They are definitely going to play with that. And I think that they're twins. I think we're going to get that. And I think that the viewership's going to know that and think it's okay. And now to take a step back and say, cousins, I understand it feels weird, but it feels weird because we view them as brother and sister. They're not. Not only are they not, they weren't even raised that way, really. She the bastard. And we never, think about this. This is why we never see Jon and Sansa interact face-to-face in the first episode, or since then. It's because if they had done that, it would feel too brother and sistery.
That's a good point. I can see that point. And also, one of the reasons why she doesn't interact with him is because Kat does not like him, and Sansa picked up on that as a child, and so she ended up not liking him. I mean, that's the way that played out.
And she says that in the TV show and in the books. We know she says that in the books, but she says that in the TV show. I was cruel.
And Mark, I'm sorry, go ahead, honey. We're lagging.
I think she says, to some extent, I was cruel. He says, you were a kid. She says, yeah, but I was kind of a dick.
Yeah, that's how they resolve that issue. Interestingly, Martin said not too long ago that he really wished that he had shown a bit of interaction between Catelyn and Arya, which was not there either. Other than Catelyn telling Robb to go get her when she was throwing food at Sansa. I'm kind of glad we didn't see that interaction. It kept them separate. We kind of thought that Arya was more in the Ned camp and Sansa was more in the Catelyn camp. I just don't see it. Yeah, people married first cousins to each other. As a matter of fact, there are plenty of states in the United States that still allow that. You know that?
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to happen in the show. That's all I'm saying.
Fair enough, and your difference of opinion is fine. Do you see where I'm coming? I mean, I'm not trying to convince you otherwise. Do you see where I'm coming from?
I do. I just don't think that's going to happen. And then we've got the intrigue that he likes redheads. So, that goes back to Sansa, too. His first love was a redhead. She's a redhead. I just don't think so. I think it's there to misdirect, which, as we know, Martin is a master of misdirection. I do think that Sansa is ultimately going to be with the Hound. And if I can say this one last time, I predicted this a long, long time ago. From the moment he rode into Winterfell, I said, this guy and this girl are going to end up together. It's been played out too much.
No, that's not true. Not the first moment that they walked in together. You thought that in that first scene, you thought that they were. You're talking about the books.
Yeah.
When he breaks, Joffrey talks to Sansa at the tournament, and then Joffrey leaves and says, my hound will walk you home. And then he breaks down onto his knees and cries, which doesn't make any sense. Something about her makes him see something in himself that he doesn't see the truth of himself.
There was an interaction before that while they were still at Winterfell, not at a tournament. But it was there, and from the beginning. My point is, people said, oh, he's not going to come back. Yeah, he came back. Now he's on the loose. Now he's with the Brotherhood. We know that the Brotherhood is associated with Arya. So all these forces are going to come together. And the Beauty and the Beast thing is going to play out. And again, we talked about the fact I don't know if he's going to live. And she is still married to Tyrion, even though it was consummated, which ultimately was not consummated. And ultimately that kind of makes Ramsay's marriage to her an irrelevancy. I mean, she was forced into it. And like she said, your name will be forgotten. Your family will be forgotten. All memory of you will be forgotten, except for this one thing. She's a killer now. And that's just fine with me. And we wondered whether or not she'd maintain her ladyhood. She has, but she's also a killer.
She most certainly is.
And even Tyrion said, when Jaime said, are you sure that Sansa didn't kill Joffrey? And Tyrion says to him, Sansa's not a killer. And then he says, not yet.
Sansa forced Joffrey, by the way.
No, she didn't. But anyway, okay. Anything else?
That's all I had to do on this one. Sansa is going to have an heirship to almost all the kingdoms in Westeros. Think about this also. The Tyrells only have the Queen of Thorns left. That's all. And I'm talking about show, because I'm assuming that's going to happen in the books. The Sand Snakes are all that's left in Dorne. It's the Queen of Thorns and Dorne. So those are open. I don't know what's going to happen with them. But right now, everybody's fighting for Dany, apparently. So.
Well, the Queen of Thorns has a grandson. I think it's Willis, isn't it? Will something. That Sansa was actually going to marry, but he's crippled. But he's still there. So at the end of it, in the books, he's going to rule there. I mean, but and you know he'll be something there. I mean, Sansa's not taking over every castle. She's got to have people under her that work for her. So we'll see. It's going to be great. Whole lot of people coming together this year. We're going to have a whole bunch of reunions. It's
13 episodes left. 13 episodes left.
You can see it coming together, can't we? I can't wait for Arya and Sansa to see each other again. They both have gone from different. They were completely different as children. They've gone in completely different directions in the books and the show as far as their adventures. And now they're coming together being fully realized people. And I think they'll have a great deal of respect for each other. And I'll tell you something, Arya is going to be mad as hell when she finds out what has happened to Sansa. She's going to be mad as hell.
Definitely thinking about that, but I don't think it's gonna. I agree. She'll be mad that had to happen to her, but Sansa. In order for Sansa will take all of these lands. Littlefinger will have set her up so that she's going to realize that if she kills Littlefinger, she gets it all. And I don't necessarily think she'll realize it. I think it'll be more like, you can't go on. You're bad for the society. There are only two people in this storyline who owe it to Littlefinger, and that's Sansa and Catelyn. Those are the two people who owe it to kill Littlefinger.
That's right. And Cat's off the show, so.
Apparently.
Well, if she's off the show, they've got to give it to somebody. And if they give it to anybody, it's either going to be Sansa who does it. I don't think Jon will do it. It's got to be a woman who does it. And it's either going to be Sansa or Arya. So. And
even if they were to, even knowing Catelyn's alive in a way in the books, that doesn't necessarily mean it's not going to be Sansa. But I'd also like to say that it's still possible they do Lady Stoneheart in the show. And hear me out. She's supposed to be rotted. I know the show's. It's been 2 years. It's been 3 years. It's been 3 years. But they could bring her back as some rotted, bloated corpse that's talking. I think that'd be cool as shit. There wouldn't be a whole lot of time to set her up, but I mean, we didn't have a whole lot of time to set her up in the books either. You got one chapter in the 3rd book and one chapter in the 5th book. That's all we get. So it wouldn't be too difficult to bring her back. And we certainly have the Brotherhood Without Banners still there. So that's still capable of setting it up. It seems pointless without it. We know that that's where Barry Dondarrion's story ended in the books. It seems like that would be intelligent. And I've said this already. If they are intending to bring her back and it's possible for them to wait this long, it was the right decision to do so because nobody is expecting her to come back.
Look, nobody's more disappointed than I am that Catelyn didn't come back as Lady Stoneheart, but I don't think she's coming back. And if she doesn't, they've got to give part of her storyline, in my opinion, to Arya. So it probably is likely that Arya is going to do the offing of Peter Baelish if we were right initially. That
Arya doesn't know it. There's no way. Arya doesn't owe it. If Catelyn was the one who was supposed to do it and she's not in the show, Sansa does it. Arya owes nothing. It is bland as fuck. We have had Littlefinger with us since the beginning. The first episode. His character cannot be killed by somebody that's not got a vendetta against him. Not a vendetta. Oh my God,
James. Who set up Ned to be killed?
But you could say that about all the kids. It's not. In that case, you could say that Arya is going to kill everybody.
Oh yeah, we know that's not true. It's just if they're going to do it differently than the books, Sansa or Arya has to do it. That's my opinion. It's got to be a woman because he's used a woman to get to where he is. And it's either those two. We'll see.
We'll see. It's going to be exciting either way.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Mom. I love it. You got anything to add?
No, that's it.
Thank y'all for watching.
Bye.